Hey everyone, if you're in Oman this week, you're going to want to pay close attention. We're looking at a pretty wild ride, weather-wise. It's not just one warning, but a whole series of them, like one after another. So we're going to break it all down, from crazy high winds all the way to freezing temperatures, so you know exactly what's headed your way.
So I know what you're thinking. 4 weather alerts in 1 week? And yeah, that's exactly what's happening. It's a really unusual combination, you know? We've got strong winds, then rain, then fog, and a pretty serious drop in temperature. So let's piece this whole puzzle together and figure out what's going on, when it's going on, and most importantly, how we can all stay safe.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. First up in this chain of events, high winds and a whole lot of dust. This is really where everything kicks off. The first alert is for Tuesday, January 20, and it looks like this is going to affect, well, pretty much the entire country.
And just to be clear, we're not talking about a little breeze here. No way. This is an official alert coming straight from Oman Civil Aviation Authority. They're using the phrase active northerly winds, which basically means strong, persistent winds. And they're warning that this is going to hit most of the governorates and stick around for several days. So yeah, this is a big, widespread event.
Okay, and this is where you can really start to see the domino effect. The wind kicks up all this dust and sand, right? Which then leads to really poor visibility and maybe even full-blown dust storms. At the same time, out on the water, the sea is getting seriously rough. And really, all of this is just setting the stage for that big temperature drop that's coming later in the week.
And when they say rough seas, believe me, they are not kidding. We're looking at waves that could hit 2.5 meters high along the coast of the Sea of Oman. To put that in perspective, that's over 8 feet tall. So yeah, definitely not a good day to plan a trip to the beach.
So, what do? What's the plan? Well, it's pretty straightforward but super important. First thing, go outside and tie down anything that could get picked up by the wind. You don't want that stuff flying around. If you absolutely have to drive, please be extra careful because visibility could get really bad. And honestly, just stay away from the coast until this whole thing blows over.
All right, so once we get past the wind and the dust, what's next? Well, the threat completely shifts. Midweek, we start looking at rain. Starting Wednesday, the forecast is calling for scattered rain and even some thunderstorms. And believe me, that brings a whole new set of dangers to the table.
Now, to really understand the biggest danger here, we need to talk about wadis. For anyone who might not know, a wadi is basically a dry riverbed or a valley. Most of the time, they look completely harmless, just dry ground. But when heavy rain hits, that can change in an instant.
And I mean it, this isn't some slow, gradual thing. We're talking about a patch of dry land turning into a raging torrent of water in a matter of minutes. That is the #1 risk with a flash flood in a wadi. So the safety rules here are dead simple, and they could literally save your life. Rule number 1, do not, under any circumstances, try to cross a wadi if you see water flowing. Don't even think about driving through a flooded road. You have no idea how deep it is or what's been washed away underneath. Your best bet is to just stay away from any low-lying areas.
Okay, so we've covered wind and rain, but wait, there's more. The next phase of this whole system brings in 2 more hazards. We're talking about dense fog and a really sharp drop in temperature.
So the forecast is warning about some seriously dense fog, especially late at night and in the early morning. It looks like the southern and interior parts of the country are going to get the worst of it. And when I say dense, I mean you could be looking at near zero visibility, which is obviously incredibly dangerous if you're trying to drive.
So how do you drive in that? The advice is crystal clear. You have to slow way down. Leave a massive gap between you and the car ahead of you. And use your fog lights. Please don't use your high beams. They'll just reflect off the fog and make things even worse. And you know what? If it gets to the point where you can barely see, the smartest, safest thing to do is just pull over and wait for it to clear up.
And that brings us to the final piece of this weather puzzle, the cold. Once all that wind and rain finally moves through, it's going to drag a huge mass of much colder air right across the country. The authorities are flagging a significant temperature drop. It's going to feel pretty chilly, especially once the sun goes down.
So, just how cold are we talking? Well, get this. The forecast for Jebel Shams, which is Oman's highest mountain, suggests it could drop to -2.2 degrees Celsius. That's not just cold, that is well below freezing. It really shows you how intense this cold snap is going to be, especially up in the mountains.
And of course, when temperatures dip below freezing, you get frost. The main concern here is going to be icy patches on those mountain roads, which can be treacherous. It's also a potential risk for local agriculture. So, Bottom line, if you're planning on heading up into the mountains, you need to be prepared for what are basically real winter conditions.
Okay, whew, that was a lot to cover, right? Wind, rain, fog, and now cold. So let's boil all of this down into a really simple, clear safety plan that you can use for the week.
All right, here is your 5-step safety checklist. Step 1. Before the winds hit, secure everything outside that could blow away. Step 2. When the rain starts, remember that wadis are a total no-go zone. Step 3. No matter what the conditions are, dust, rain, fog, you have to drive for those conditions, not for the speed limit. Step 4. Dress warmly. Get ready for that cold snap by layering up. And finally, and this is probably the most important step of all,
is to stay informed. Look, this is a developing situation, and things can change quickly. Your absolute best sources for up-to-the-minute information are the official ones, the Civil Aviation Authority and the National Multi-Hazard Early Warning Center. Make sure you're following their updates.
So, there you have it. We've gone through all the alerts, we know the potential impacts, and now we have a solid safety plan. The only question left is, are you ready? This week is really going to test our preparedness. So please, share this info with your friends and family, get yourself ready, and above all, stay safe out there.